a bankable project pipeline is a major deterrent, and one of the main reasons why we do have this advanced course, and we do have a number of other projects and programs that do support the same visioning, is that we want to build or strengthen the capacities of governments, countries to access climate finance by taking a learning by doing approach. So it's a very rigorous process in which we take governments, countries, and now students through a process in which you are able to now develop a bankable proposal. You are able to understand the climate financial mechanisms. You are able to understand the policy environment because it's linked. You are able to understand beyond just developing a project pipeline or bankable proposal. You need to understand the monitoring and evaluation aspect of it. And you also, very importantly, need to understand how to budget, right? Whether it is at the proposal stage or even during the implementation. So this advanced course tries to do this, and it takes a hands-on learning by doing approach, and it has a number of learning objectives. Confirm you see my screen? You can see your screen. All right. So the first learning objective is to try and enhance the capacities of colleagues around the climate architecture, key mechanisms and instruments, right? This is now the climate finance architecture, understanding how climate finance is, of course, understanding the various climate financing mechanisms that are available and the different instruments, right? I think it was mentioned, I read a comment that the global national debt is a deterrent to accessing climate finance, right? So what are instruments that are available, the grants and the rest that do not add on to the national debt? So you'll understand that by the end of this advanced course. The other is, and very critically, is to help enhance the capacities of you guys around climate rationale and designing catalytic projects. So in bankable proposals, you might have a foolproof a proposal, but you find that when you submit it to some of these climate financing mechanisms, they tell you that is more of a development project. So they point you towards the World Bank. But and one of the biggest gap involved here is because the climate rationale, the reason or the link to which the problem is linked to climate change is not strong enough within your proposal. So that's the biggest gap. Beyond the technical capacities, your proposal needs to have a foolproof showing that there is a link between the problem you've identified and climate change. So this is a climate rationale linkage, without a doubt that climate change is driving this problem or is a major factor towards the problem that you're trying to alleviate. And of course, innovative business models supporting climate mitigation and adaptation. Currently, we know there's dwindling. There's a big dwindling of climate finance globally, right? Whether it's multilateral, bilateral, and it's because maybe sometimes of the geopolitics that are currently going on, or just the funding envelopes shrinking, right? So it's important for you to embed within any project or proposal innovative business models, and this is an angling towards sustainability of the project and the crowding in of private sector. Because if you can develop within a project proposal the aspect of a business model, one, it will attract private financing capital, because then you have shown that this is able to generate revenue. But two, it will be able to sustain it, the project will be able to sustain itself, meaning the intervention will be able to sustain itself beyond the project the timeline, right? So this is an important aspect for sustainability, and many funding mechanisms, many kind of donors are asking what is your sustainability plan within your project, and a business model is critical to this. The fourth one is around climate risk assessment and investment strategies for renewable energy and nature-based solutions. This is again critical for you to understand the climate rationale. For you to write a strong climate rationale, you need to understand the climate risk, the risk profile of your of the area of the country or the geographical scope you're trying to write a project around. You need to be able to now conduct a climate risk assessment, whether rapid or detailed. You need to be able to do it. Whether you're looking at more of ASAL regions, which is you're looking at assessment of a numerous number of climate risks, which might include floods, might include droughts, might include heat waves, or even in the tropics or in the beach, in the coastline where the climate risks such as sea level rise are quite common. You need to be able to understand how to do a climate risk assessment so that you can demonstrate your understanding of your problem and how it's linked to climate change, which is all going to be framed within the climate rationale. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, monitoring, evaluation, and learning frameworks into climate projects. This is essential not only during project development, but also during project implementation, because even when you're looking at the kind of funding that is out there and how it's structured, you need to show a clear framework that will be able to show what the inputs were and what we expect as the outputs and what we expect as eventual the impact, and how you can trace and track that. That is very important, whether it's a mitigation or adaptation framework. And then for mitigation, sometimes it's quite straightforward, and adaptation, sometimes it's quite context specific. But now we have the decision around the global goal or adaptation that has some critical indicators that you can now use, particularly during your proposal development. Right now, of course, with that decision happening last year in COP30, many of these proposals will expect you to show some of these indicators within adaptation projects. And then on the flip side, monitoring and evaluation is also critical during implementation, right? Of course, that's when you're implementing your framework. And why it's critical is because then one, some of this funding is staggered. You need to show some level of outputs or impact. Okay, not impact at that level, but so at outputs, so that you can unlock the subsequent tranche of money. So if you have not known how to develop a strong framework, and also not known how to implement that framework, you will fall short, and sometimes some projects stop getting funding because they have not demonstrated or tracked some of their outputs. So these are the general learning objectives, and we intend for this to be a very interactive session, and we learn from both ways, from the experiences from the different countries, as we've had from colleagues from Botswana and others, and we expect to have even more at the end of this. So, as I've mentioned, the target groups or the target participants for this particular course include the government policymakers, included both at the national and sub-national levels. Of course, the private sector investors, those are critical, because now there is this global push on how we can innovatively crowd in private sector. We know the capital is there with them, but then we need to some extent convince them that the climate change space, or particularly the actions that we are trying to alleviate climate change, are investable and bankable. So that's an important aspect. And of course, the CSOs, NGOs, and development practitioners is like crucial. Academia, students will the students, or just concluding students, and professionals from financial institutions, or just individuals that are interested within to get an understanding of the climate finance space, but importantly, how to unlock it. Yes, so on this particular course, we will go through about 9 units. So there will be 8 straight units, but then the last unit will be on project development. As I said, this is not a typical course in that you just get to learn theoretically and move on. I think if that's a perspective, you need to quite quickly change it, because it's going to be quite a hands-on course. And therefore, we do expect some deliverables from you at the end of it. And I think from just this outline, you know that we do expect some group proposals, because at the end of this, we want to have at least one, of course, apart from the cadre of technical experts that now understand the climate finance space and how to unlock it. We also want to develop some bankable project pipeline from this. And once we do have strong proposals from this group, we try and first clean up. At the end of this, we have a strong draft, and then try and link you or give you directions towards which you can unlock some of this climate finance. So it's critical for you to be participatory. It's critical for you to be involved in each of these units, because at the end of each of these units, there are some deliverables. So the first unit, of course, is a grounding unit. You need to understand the overview of the climate systems and risk assessment. As I said, it's important for you to understand the basics climate risks, how the climate system works, where some of the factors through which some climate risks advanced in different geographical scopes, and importantly, why it's important to do a risk assessment and how to do it. So you get an overview of this. So this is the climate grounding of this project, of this course. You need to be able to understand what climate change and its drivers are and how to assess it. And then the second unit, of course, is climate finance foundations, architecture, and emerging mechanisms. As I said, here you'll try and get an understanding of climate finance, its principles, its guiding principles, the very definitions of them. You'll try and you will get an understanding of some of the sources of climate financing, who are the critical actors within the space. You'll understand the global laws of climate financing. What are some of the roles and the mandates of the different climate financing mechanisms and secretariats thereafter, and of course you'll understand the new and emerging innovative mechanisms, climate financing mechanisms that are coming up, your blended finance approaches. Someone has mentioned about carbon markets, which is also another mechanism. So then this will ground you in understanding of what is out there and what are the opportunities that exist out there. So right after, we're going to go into another unit, which is the ESG and sustainability. And the main aspect of this, or the main what we're trying to get from this ESG and sustainability unit is, one, to understand these frameworks. So as ESG is environment, social, and governance. These frameworks are becoming critical in proposal development. One, you'll get an understanding of what the framework is, and importantly, how the ESG can be integrated in some of these investment and financial decision making. This is critical because then it's some of those checklists that some donors or some financial mechanisms look out for within proposals to ensure their viability or the sustainability for maximum impact, right? So ESG frameworks are critical. It's important to understand them. It's important to know how to integrate some of these ESG frameworks into investment and financial decision making. The fourth one is an enabling policy environment. As was mentioned, that some policies might not be aligning. Some priorities at the national or subnational level might not align with the local level. It is important to understand the policy environment right from the global level, the international level, to understand the frameworks that bore some of these agreements and understand how these agreements are then ratified at the national level, and how some of this, after the ratification, how some of these policies are now taken up through, whether it's laws, whether it's strategies, whether it's action plans, and the rest, and how that also dwindles down to the subnational level policy frameworks and financing frameworks, and finally how that gets to the local level. So understanding the policy environment is critical one, because then your bankable proposal needs to align to the national level and subnational level policy. Usually then at the government level, it's the authority when it comes to what the national priorities are, whether it's within their NDCs, whether it's within their national action plans that try to implement their NDCs, whether it's within their NAPs, that at that national level is critical. And sometimes with regime changes come different priorities. And also those are essential to ensure that you are aligning your project activities, your aims and targets within your project development towards achieving some of these policy decisions or policy targets that have made at the national level, following, of course, the ratification of international and some regional policy frameworks. So enabling environment is a critical unit to understanding what needs prioritization and what needs to be aligned. And then, of course, the fifth unit is around climate rational development. This is critical. Again, it touches on a number of aspects in the other units. For you to develop a strong climate rational, a foolproof climate rational, you need to have an understanding of the climate risk profile of the region. You need to have an understanding of the policy profile of the region or geographical scope you're working in. And then you can show now with current and then future data, climate and otherwise social data, that this problem is existing and will continue existing if nothing is done to intervene. And therefore, you can show that due to climate change as one of the main drivers or the main driver of this problem, we need to, and that's how we build into your activities. We need these kinds of interventions to alleviate this problem that is being driven by climate rational. So climate rational is quite it's a rigorous process to develop it. It requires a lot of research and data collection sometimes. And the good thing is there's a lot of data on a number of platforms, and some of those you will be shown within these units where to get the data, the most up-to-date data, the tools you can use to assess this data, and then how importantly you can frame from all this data, how you can frame this into your climate rational aspect of the project pipeline. So this has a number of assets within it, and it will be building on some of the aspects you'll have learned within the first 4 units. And then the unit 6 is around now the project design, right? The theory of change. This is now once you've understood the problem, you've understood your problem tree, right? You've understood your policy profile, you've understood your risk profile, you've understood some social economic aspects within the geographical scope. Then now you start conceptualizing how do we then come up with a set of activities based on a set of inputs that will then try and cure the problem, for lack of a better word, mitigate against the problem. And this is important in project design. One, you need to have a clear, concrete structure in which those activities link with each other to develop the overall goal or the overall impact statement or paradigm shift, if you may. So yeah, this is important, both diagrammatically and narrative wise. You'll need to show the structure. You will need to show how each activity will lead to what input and how those activities can link to each other to lead to a certain output and outcome eventually. So yeah, this is a very important stage of your project development process, because then if here is where you can now exercise innovation. This is where you can now leverage those local level adaptation or mitigation actions that are there. This is where now you can be creative and see how you can build a sustainable business model or innovative business model. So essentially, this is the aspect in which you can now become creative to cure a certain problem. And of course, the development of theory of change is a critical aspect. There are a number of templates out there, and we are going to share a number of them that you can use. Some are complex, some are less complex, depending on the funding mechanisms. They might prescribe the theory of change templates that you would use. But it's important to know the fundamental aspects of a theory of change, which comes from right from the what your activities are, what your outputs will be, what your outcomes will be, the paradigm shift or the impact statement, some of the your critical assumptions within the project, and a number of others that are critical as building on the theory of change. Whichever template you use, you need to have some of these pillars in them. So that will be Unit 6. Unit 7, we're looking now at planning and budget development. One of the critical aspects around climate financing right now that is being discussed, even within the policy space, particularly when you look at the NDCs that have been released. You can see that Africa alone, from just the NDCs that have gone through by end of last year, I think almost $1 trillion. Quite substantively more than $1 trillion in there. So they've costed the NDC, saying that these activities, whether it's directly going to come from the government or coming from external sources, so meaning conditional or unconditional, that costing is quite substantial, right? And this comes into this unit. Why? Because it's important for you to be realistic, to be very objective when it comes to developing a budget, right? So for each activity you propose, whether it's in a policy document or in a budget, in a technical proposal such as what we're going through, you need to be able to understand the fundamentals of budgeting, right? You need to understand how to do budgeting well. And there are some templates out there. There are some tools that can be used to realistically budget a set of activities or budget a proposal or concept. So this is important to be able to allocate the right amount of resources to the activities, right? To ensure that you do not either over budget or under budget, both of which will be a problem during implementation. And whoever is evaluating your proposal can easily kick you out due to the kind of budget you set, right? If you say that maybe I need $100,000 for this activity, and clearly they know from experience that this will not be enough, meaning you do not know what you're doing, then they automatically kick you or set you aside. Or sometimes you might have over-exaggerated some activities. It will again lead you to the same eventuality, being sidelined. So understanding this process is important for both during proposal development and during implementation. Unit 8 is around project monitoring, evaluation, and learning. I think I've mentioned a lot about this, and it's important. So yeah, here you'll understand some how to develop some of these frameworks, tools that are available out there, and of course some of the case studies that you can use, particularly tailored to the project that you'll be developing. Unit 9 will be a culmination of all the in each unit, particularly starting from unit 4 or unit 5, we'll be expecting you to start drafting. If you're going through unit 5, climate rational development, or we've gone through unit 1, climate risk assessment, we will need you to start already imagining what as a group, right? Imagine what's the critical problem currently within a given geographical scope. What is the prevalent climate risks that are there? You start conceptualizing that and start doing a risk assessment, right? The kind of impact it has had, if it's floods, how frequent have they been over the years, how what's the projections looking like, things like that, and how does it now interlink with the social aspect, which is the human side? Has it affected livelihoods? What is the impact of that livelihoods? What's the you quantify it or qualify it in terms of the impact it has had both socially and economically to the government, to the national level or to the subnational level, to geographical scope, right? So you come down like that, you now start designing your project based on your climate rationale. You develop your theory of change, you develop your logical framework, you come develop your project and M&E framework. So at the end of it, now that's where Unit 9 comes in, right? We'll give you a couple of weeks to firm up all this together and now present to this cohort of, not to the cohort, but to the facilitators, but also you'll be presenting to your fellow cohort members the project you've had and the ideas within that and how the project proposal will be looking at the end of it. And we will try to give you comments within all the steps to improve them so that by the time you're presenting it at the end of Unit 9, you will have you've done quite substantive work, and then at that point your proposal would have firmed up a little bit. So yes, so that's the layout of the units. You'll have a total of 8 practical units, and then of course the 9 is where you're going to present your major deliverable with this unit. Yes, so just some technical aspects of the course. This course used to be 5 weeks and sometimes 4 weeks. As I mentioned, this is cohort 3. But then we got the course because at the end of every cohort, we try and evaluate and get areas in which you can improve. We got a number of feedbacks from colleagues in terms of the time, in terms of the durations, and therefore we've tweaked this a little bit. And this will be the first time you will be going through this iteration of tweaking. And so how we've done it now, we're going to have 9 weeks course. You're going to be having it from the January 12th to the 13th of March this year, so about 9 weeks. And you will be having it on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So every other day, and not every day. So every other day, that will be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This will be delivered, of course, virtually, strictly. I know you know by now you have colleagues from across Africa, from all the 5 sub-regions of Africa, and therefore we've opted to have it virtually for now. And of course, we're going to have it for 2 hours a day. And the time is as now, which is about 1,500 hours to 1,700 hours East African time, or that is around 1,200 hours to 1,400 hours GMT. Participants, and this is important, participants need to attend these sessions. It's critical. And we say up to 90% of the classes for you to be able to be certified at the end of it. It is critical for you to be part of the discussions during the breakout sessions. It's critical for you if you are in a group, for you to be actively participating in brainstorming sessions, writing sessions. It's important for you to ask questions where you do not understand or share experiences, because now we have quite a substantive mix of students. I was just looking at the profiles. Quite a substantive mix of colleagues across the continent, and I believe we can learn from each other, learn a lot from each other, from the perspective, from the experiences that we've had from the different jurisdictions. So it's important for you to participate. As I mentioned, it's quite a hands-on process, and therefore your participation will be important, not just to log in and log out, but being keen, because I believe at the end of this, you will. There's a lot to learn from the faculty, but also from each other. So at this juncture, I would like to pause here and maybe let me stop sharing quickly and allow, before we go into the questions, allow some faculty members who are on to say one or two words. I will start with Hillary. If you can hear me, you can unmute and just say a few words, introductory words.
Yes. Thank you, Delphine, for the introductions, and I think you've clearly highlighted the course outline and, of course, objectives of this program. My name is Hilary Korir. I serve at the National Treasury. That's the Ministry of Finance in Kenya. I work as an assistant director there, financial and sectoral affairs department. I've been in the climate finance space for now almost 10 years. So hopefully we'll be able to interact and, of course, know one another. And, of course, even beyond this course, hopefully we'll be able to meet some of you in the corridors of the climate finance. Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hilary, for those introductory remarks. Salome, do you want to say a few words? Salome, can you hear me? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you, colleagues, and thanks, Delvin, for taking us through the introduction of the course. And I'll be glad to interact with the team. I'll be taking you through the week 3 on the ESG and sustainability. So myself, coming from the financial industry with a financial background and with the experience in the ESG integrations and project sustainability. So looking forward to learn more and to network that goes beyond this session and how we can be better off in our respective roles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Salome. Is there any faculty member that maybe I have missed that is with us today? You can quickly unmute and give introductory remarks. Quickly scanning through to see if there's any. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yes, of course, you'll have quite a number more of faculty to interact with throughout the whole of this course. Yes. So now comes to our second agenda, and I would like to open it up to colleagues if there's any questions, any comments that you would like to bring up. This is your time.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Bebe, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My name is once more. I'm in Zimbabwe. And I just want to check one quick question is, are we going to get the slides or we'll have to just attend and pay attention?
Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, you'll be getting the slides at the end of each unit. Yeah. It's important for us to share the slides at the end of each unit. We're still debating whether we should be sharing the slides before the units or after the units. So we will get back to you. But yeah, definitely we will share the slides. And if you like, we can also share these slides, the ones that I've been projecting. Yeah. Okay, is there any other question? You can raise your hand.
Hello.
Yes, Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for your giving this opportunity. First, my name is Maulid. I'm from Somaliland. I'm so happy to participate this program and this great program. And also, I will thank you for your presentation. And also, I will thank you, all the members of this the participate in this program. And my question is, do you have any opportunities to give those who is participate in this program as well as?
I'm not sure I get you, Abdi. You mean by opportunities to unlock financing? What kind of opportunities are you referring to?
Yeah. If there is a restaurant programs and other things that to develop the person who is wanted to understand their climate finance, that's a good way. Do you have any opportunities?
Yes, you will get to understand the opportunities that exist within the climate financing space throughout the whole of this course. And hopefully at the end of the course, as I mentioned, we will try and, based on the proposals, the pipeline of proposals that we'll have from this cohort, we'll see how we can link you in the right direction when it comes to unlocking financing for those proposals. I hope that answers. Emmanuel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tevin. I want to really use this opportunity to express my very sincere gratitude. And I believe many of my colleagues here feel the same for the opportunity to participate in this training, to be part of this cohort. Just listening to you make the presentation, they outlined, I get a clear sense of what we are going to live with here at the end of these 9 weeks. So I'm sincerely very, very grateful. I never thought it was going to be like this, so I just applied. And so I am going to commit and to dedicate my time and everything into it to make sure that we get the best out of this. So I thank you so much and your team for putting this together. The second point is, I'm sorry, maybe this question is in a hurry, but because you mentioned it, I think from the 4th week or so, where we'll be doing some writing and group work of. So I just wanted to ask, maybe it's not necessary, but just for clarity, are you going to put us in groups? Are we going to do this in groups, or we'll be doing it individually, just so that we can have a sense ahead of time? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Emmanuel, for those kind words. And just to respond to your question, how we've done it before is in groups. I think it's easier to handle about 10 to 12 proposals rather than to handle about 62 proposals, just looking at the number of colleagues that are on. So I think it's going to be in groups, and therefore we're going to leave it in the discretion of everyone here to join a group based on your, of course, common understanding, and of course we're going to ensure that there is a francophone group and groups and anglophone groups, just to ensure that we have some commonalities when it comes to language. Yeah, I hope that answers to you. Over to you, Lambert.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think mine is not a question per se, but it's just a suggestion with respect to whether to share the slides ahead of time or after the completion of each unit. I would want to suggest, I'm just suggesting, if maybe after you have deliberated and you have settled on your final decision, I would prefer personally that we get it ahead of time, and then we are able to study and prepare some questions before we start the unit. Sometimes it's not easy, getting